What a way to start. Thank you, Terry. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lake County. I'm Chris Cleveland, your service leader, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm joined today with Reverend Cynthia Snavely, our new minister. And we have, of course, our wonderful pianist, Terry. Yay! And our tech team is Dustin, Janine, and Henry today. As you know, we are an extremely active church. There's a lot going on, so we have some pretty extensive announcements. Please make sure your cell phones are silenced, and our Safe Congregation Committee highly recommends wearing a mask, but it is up to you. And they do recommend the KN95 masks as they are safer. You can find out all our information by reading the weekly bulletin or the monthly communicator, and make sure when you get that, you open it up and read it all, because it'll tell you so many things going on. And then you don't have to come back and say, I didn't know that was happening. So, and then there's our website and our Facebook page. Our website is uuLakeCounty.org. Our finance committee is looking for a fun and fundraising coordinator. So if you are interested in planning activities that are fun and raise money for the church, see Chris Higgins, our treasurer, and she'll help you out with that. Next Sunday, we will have Reverend Katie Culbert preaching live, and her sermon will be "Music is what feelings should sound like." So, don't forget to, this Saturday, to attend the Conservation Symposium on March 4th. We also, if you're interested in wearing a yellow solar power shirt, we have some out there for any donation you want to make to the church. There's a table just to the right of the exit door, and to the exit outside door in the narthex. And we have all sizes, and just take one and donate whatever you want for it. If you are looking for a way to get to know others, consider signing up in the narthex for a covenant, for either a covenant circle or hosting a circle dinner. There are sign-up sheets over on the table out there. Some of the things have been moved, so I don't know which table, but it's a good way to get to know people. Even if you've been here for a long time, you'll learn new things about them. After the service, there will be a short break, and then we will have a memorial service for our longtime member, Lois Sanford, who recently passed away. And there will be a reception following that memorial service. Those of you on Zoom can stay on the same link and watch that memorial service. So there will be no refund table for the David Roth concert that was canceled today, but next Sunday that will resume if you still have your tickets and want to get a refund. He's coming again next year, but you have to get tickets, new tickets for that one. We have a lot of needs for our open house on March 25th. A lot of volunteers are needed. There's a sign-up sheet out to the left, and there's also flyers and invitation cards. There's a whole stack of them to take and put up on bulletin boards at places you go. Hand the cards out to your friends to let them know about it. We're trying to get more people interested in coming to our church. So you can contact Janine Reagan if you have questions about that open house. And if you had been interested in taking the about the pain class, about using your brain to fight pain, or it had a cute name, I can't remember, something like that, that has been canceled. But if you are interested in that information, there's going to be a discussion group on it on March 19th. And Henry has some announcements. Oh, and this.
Good morning. Really only one announcement, but it'll take a little while. These flowers are new here this morning, and they're here to represent the Hospitality Committee. This brightness and freshness is the Hospitality Committee. And I want to recognize them this morning because they've been doing a great job every Sunday with coffee and so forth, keeping everybody happy. But last week, I believe it was last week, they did a special job in organizing and carrying off the reception, welcoming our interim minister, Reverend Snavely. So I want to take a moment this morning. Chris is going to read the names, and I'm going to bring the flowers around to the members of the committee. And I'd like you to take a flower, if you're here and on the committee. So we carried around this morning, we can identify you as one of the people who has been helping with the Hospitality Committee. And also just a way of showing you our thanks for that service to the congregation, all right? So let's try that.
Susan Moore. And Susan Zingali Baird. I'll make you run around. This is your exercise.
I don't do as many dishes though as the others. Already separated? Let's take a whole bunch.
Karen Frank. And Jane Hepting. And Jane Lovejoy. Jackie Shea. Kristen England. Phyllis Gillette. Janine Reagan. Barbara Hill. Right over there. What about Bernie?
Yeah, Bernie.
The chairperson. Now, I think if you head into the kitchen, I bet you'll get the rest of them. They're already in there. One more announcement is that next Sunday, we are having a reception from 3 to 5 here for the prize winners of the UUCLC Conservation Essay Contest. So please plan on attending that reception next Sunday from 3 to 5. It will also honor the many volunteers and from nonprofits and government agencies who have worked at the Eco Expo, which is happening next Saturday. So don't forget to attend that. There will also be a short program in the sanctuary to present the essay prizes and recognize the volunteers, followed by light refreshments in the social hall. We are expecting a lot of visitors at the church who have never been here before. So be sure and greet them and make them feel welcome. And it'll be fun. Okay, wow. Lots of announcements. Welcome all to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lake County. Justin, can we greet those who are on Zoom today? Give them a wave. Good morning. If anyone is here for the first time and is willing to introduce yourself, please raise your hand until a microphone appears and tell us who you are and what brought you here. Anybody interested in introducing themselves? Or someone who's come back after a long time? It's a, but, okay. UUCLC is an inclusive, non-creedal fellowship that works for a just community and fosters a lifelong search for personal spiritual fulfillment. UUs are brave and compassionate thinkers and doers. We are diverse in faith, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, and spirituality, but we are aligned in our desire to make a difference for the good. We have many different beliefs, but we share many values. We include people who believe in God, people who do not, and people who just let the mystery be. We gratefully acknowledge that we are stewards of the traditional lands of the Timucua Native peoples, whose ancestral homeland we humbly walk upon today. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we worship together. All are welcome here this morning. Thank you for sharing your Sunday morning with us. And we are so fortunate to have Reverend Cynthia as our interim minister for the next 18 months. Besides working for over 30 years in this field, she also has a history of supporting welcoming congregation development and issues related to disability accommodations, rights for LGBTQIA+ folks, women, and immigrants. She has worked as a chaplain in a prison and with the police. She is also experienced in adult RE. She will offer our opening words this morning.
Excuse me, I was told after last week that I can see over you to see you, but apparently you couldn't all see all of me. Our opening words are from American author and social activist, best known for her writings on race, feminism, and class, Bell Hooks, who said, "All too often women, and I would add others too, believe it is a sign of commitment, an expression of love, to endure unkindness or cruelty, to forgive and forget. In actuality, when we love rightly, we know that the healthy, loving response to cruelty and abuse is putting ourselves out of harm's way." Our chalice lighting.
I'm going to turn this. What if I turn it this way? I think that might be better.
Thank you.
The lighting of our chalice is a tradition shared by UUs all around the world. Susie will come up and light our chalice this morning as I read words by Eric A. Heller Wagner. It's all set. Blessed is the fire that burns deep in the soul. It is the flame of the human spirit, touched into being by the mystery of life. It is the fire of love burning deep in the human heart, the divine glow in every life. Wasn't up enough, huh? Walk slow. Thank you. That's okay.
I think after 10 years I could do this.
Okay, please join in singing Spirit of Life. You may stay seated. Come to me, sing my heart, the streams of compassion, rise in the sea. Told me clouds, set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Each week, we offer time for you to share your joys and concerns by placing a stone or stones in the sand. There is a station at both the front and the back of the sanctuary. If you wish to share silently, you may begin. If anyone wishes to share aloud, please raise your hand and a microphone will be brought to you. If there is someone who hasn't been named that you hold concern for, you may name them aloud at this time. For all of those named, and for those whose names are too tender to speak, we collectively hold them in the light of our compassion and the warmth of our community. Chris?
Our reflection this morning will be a moving reflection, Tai Chi. You can sit in your seat and close your eyes and meditate. You can watch others. You can try to move from your seat. You can stand up at your seat or even in the aisles, whatever level you want to participate. And it'll be about 5 minutes. Just relax and breathe deeply. Should we have Terry play? No.
We're here.
Okay. There's no music on it? Okay. All righty. All right. Well, while we're waiting, just relax and let your arms flop on either side. Knees are soft. Oh, it's that. Oh, gee. We get an ad even in church. Okay, here we go. Everything's soft. Thank you.
Please join together in sharing the covenant of this congregation. Love is the spirit of this church, and through service we live our principles. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help. And now a story.
The Paper Bag Princess, written by Robert Munch, illustrated by Michael Marchenko, read aloud by Maddie Hunter. Elizabeth was a beautiful princess. She lived in a castle and had expensive princess clothes. She was going to marry a prince named Ronald. Unfortunately, a dragon smashed her castle, burned all her clothes with his fiery breath, and carried off Prince Ronald. Elizabeth decided to chase the dragon and get Ronald back. She looked everywhere for something to wear, but the only thing she could find that was not burnt was a paper bag. So she put on the paper bag and followed the dragon. He was easy to follow because he left a trail of burnt forests and horses' bones. Finally, Elizabeth came to a cave with a large door that had a huge knocker on it. She took hold of the knocker and banged on the door. The dragon stuck his nose out of the door and said, "Well, a princess! I love to eat princesses, but I have already eaten a whole castle today. I am a very busy dragon. Come back tomorrow." He slammed the door so fast that Elizabeth almost got her nose caught. Elizabeth grabbed the knocker and banged on the door again. The dragon stuck his nose out of the door and said, "Go away! I love to eat princesses, but I have already eaten a whole castle today. I am a very busy dragon. Come back tomorrow." "Wait!" shouted Elizabeth. "Is it true that you are the smartest and fiercest dragon in the whole world?" "Yes," said the dragon. "Is it true," said Elizabeth, "that you can burn up 10 forests with your fiery breath?" "Oh, yes," said the dragon, and he took a huge deep breath and breathed out so much fire that he burnt up 50 forests. "Fantastic," said Elizabeth, and the dragon took another huge breath and breathed out so much fire that he burnt up 100 forests. "Magnificent," said Elizabeth, and the dragon took another huge breath, but this time nothing came out. The dragon didn't have enough fire left to cook a meatball. Elizabeth said, "Dragon, is it true that you can fly around the world in just 10 seconds?" "Why, yes," said the dragon, and jumped up and flew all the way around the world in just 10 seconds. He was very tired when he got back, but Elizabeth shouted, "Fantastic! Do it again!" So the dragon jumped up and flew around the whole world in just 20 seconds. When he got back, he was too tired to talk, and he lay down and went straight to sleep. Elizabeth whispered very softly, "Hey, dragon." The dragon didn't move at all. She lifted up the dragon's ear and put her head right inside. She shouted as loud as she could, "Hey, dragon!" The dragon was so tired, he didn't even move. Elizabeth walked right over the dragon and opened the door to the cave. There was Prince Ronald. He looked at her and said, "Elizabeth, you are a mess. You smell like ashes. Your hair is all tangled, and you are wearing a dirty old paper bag. Come back when you are dressed like a real princess." "Ronald," said Elizabeth, "your clothes are really pretty, and your hair is very neat. You look like a real prince. But you are a bum." They didn't get married after all. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to be notified.
I will get this straight one of these weeks. It is our practice at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lake County to give generously to our church as we are able, remembering both its meaning in our lives and its impact in the world. You may donate today in the wooden box in the narthex or by any of the methods on the screen. Thank you for your donation today. And our hymn is number 151, "I Wish I Knew How." I invite you to stand as you're comfortable. Before the sermon, a reading written by Alex Capitan, who writes, I want to talk about choice. I want to talk about the fact that just because someone who is out to destroy you says you chose to be the way you are, does not mean the path of best protection is to counter with, no, I didn't. It's not a choice. I was born this way, and I've always been this way. Is who I am, my sexuality, my gender, a deep and real part of me, close to my soul? Yes. Are there choices involved? Of course there are. I have made one choice after another to feel more at ease, more vibrant, more alive. I chose to change my name. I chose to allow myself to open to the idea that I might be attracted to women. I chose to open myself to the idea that, first of all, genderqueer people exist, second, that I might be one, and third, that I might be attracted to other genderqueer folks. After all this, I chose to remain open to the idea that I was still attracted to men and might actually like being in a relationship with one. If I hadn't made these choices, I never could have lived into my full, authentic self. And you know, there are some things that are more attractive to me than gender. I am attracted to feminists. I am attracted to queer people and radicals. I am attracted to people who are assertive and like to make decisions. Is any of this biologically hardwired into me? Probably not. Is all of this impacted by culture? Definitely. But do I have every right to pursue relationships and experiences with whoever I want because it's my body and my sexuality? Yes. It doesn't matter who I seek intimacy, ecstasy, joy, or camaraderie with. Sexuality is sacred. Love is sacred. And I deserve and demand the right to full control over my body and what I do with it and who I share it with. So if anyone ever tries to invalidate you or the way you seek intimacy by saying it's just a choice, tell them choice is sacred. Tell them the inherent right of every person to have full authority and agency over choices they make about their lives and their bodies is a spiritual and human imperative, that there is a word for this, and it's liberation, that there is nothing more worth fighting for. Tell them in your faith tradition, we don't love people despite their differences or because they can't help being different. We love people because of their differences and because diversity enriches our world and our communities. Tell them that in the final reckoning, there is only one choice that will be judged, and that's their choice. Tell them you hope they choose love. I chose the topic of this sermon for this month, the month of Valentine's Day, a month when we often think of devotion and romantic love. I grew up with fairy tales that all ended with the princess finding her prince, getting married, and living happily ever after. I became engaged in college to someone I should not have been. Fortunately for me, I realized that before we married, but I had bought into the cultural narrative. I was in my 20s, my friends were getting married. It was what I was supposed to do. I wish Munch's Paper Bag Princess was a story I had been told in my childhood. Perhaps I would not have quite so easily bought into the dominant narrative. At the beginning of the story, the heroine is devoted to her prince. They are going to marry. When the dragon captures him, she sets off to rescue him. But by the end of the story, she realizes that her Prince Ronald is not someone who is deserving of her devotion, and she does not marry him. And that's still a happy ending. As a child and teenager, my parents and school made sure I knew the plumbing aspects of heterosexual sex and of reproduction. But my sex education did not include any information on homosexual sex or discussions on verbal, emotional, or physical abuse in relationships. Today, sex education is more likely to include information on gay and straight sex, but still is not likely to include information on the range of gender identities. And unfortunately, I expect that still today, little to no discussions on verbal, emotional, or physical abuse are part of regular school sex ed. But our societal norms can set us up for abuse. Nigerian novelist Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, in a piece titled, "We Should All Be Feminists," says, "We do a great disservice to boys in how we raise them. We stifle the humanity of boys. We define masculinity in a very narrow way. Masculinity is a hard, small cage, and we put boys inside this cage. But by far the worst thing we do to males, by making them feel they have to be hard, is that we leave them with very fragile egos. The harder a man feels compelled to be, the weaker his ego is. And then we do a much greater disservice to girls, because we raise them to cater to the fragile egos of males. We teach girls to shrink themselves, to make themselves smaller. We say to girls, you can have ambition, but not too much. You should aim to be successful, but not too successful. Otherwise, you will threaten the man." Adichie is assuming a gender binary, but she is right about the way society often indoctrinates those of us identified as men and those of us identified as women. These societal norms often set us up to join abusive relationships. The young man I was engaged to in college reacted to my breaking the engagement with emotional abuse. He regularly put hate mail into my college mailbox. I was a witch, a whore, and a Judas. The boyfriend of one of the neighbor girls with whom I played as a child went further. He murdered her. I told this to a friend, and he shared that a childhood friend of his, too, had been murdered by her spouse. How many of us in this room know or know of someone who was killed by a spouse or partner? In June of 2013, Elizabeth Flock reported for the US News that about 40% of women killed worldwide are done so by a partner, according to the World Health Organization's first global review of violence against women. The problem isn't nearly as bad for men, who are 6 times less likely to be murdered by a partner than women, according to the review. More recently, the World Economic Forum reported that 6 women are killed by men every hour in a global pandemic of femicide that is being partly hidden by COVID-19. And the United Nations is calling for urgent action. More than half of the women and girls killed by men are murdered by current or previous partners, according to the United Nations data. Today, many Unitarian Universalists are teaching our children and teens about the physical aspects of heterosexual and homosexual sex, and about how to protect themselves from STDs, as well as from unintended pregnancies, and about the range of gender identities. But I am afraid that even we liberal Unitarian Universalists are not doing a great job of teaching our children or ourselves about the healthy dynamics of power in sexual relationships and how to protect oneself from unhealthy ones. We are trying. I'll give us credit for that. The sex education curriculum developed by the Unitarian Universalists and the United Church of Christ together, Our Whole Lives, or OWL for short, now has curricula for preschoolers through senior citizens. But many of us will not have the opportunity to take the course. So on this Sunday morning, in the month of Valentine's Day, I want to talk about an ethics of sex that takes power dynamics seriously. When I was 9 and 10, I used to be able to win a prize at any carnival. All I had to do was find the person guessing ages. And almost always that person would guess 14 or 15, and I would win the prize. But the body that allowed me to win a prize at the carnival also put me in an uncomfortable position with boys. I was a naive 10-year-old who didn't know how to deal with the bag boy at the grocery store hitting on me. But then he, of course, also didn't know I was 10. But then there was the boy we used to pick up and take to Sunday school with us. He did know I was 10. I remember waiting in the car with him for the rest of my family when he asked me if I was ticklish where his girlfriend was ticklish as he touched me inappropriately. I was shocked, but I didn't tell my parents. My reasoning at the time was that if I told my parents, they wouldn't take him to Sunday school, and he really needed it. A reaction I now know was not helpful. I knew about menstruation. I knew how babies were made. I did not know how to deal with an older boy who touched me without my permission or consent. I was 10, but many a grown woman who reads Cosmopolitan and Elle still doesn't know what to do with the boss who touches her inappropriately. In March of 2015, Nico Lang wrote on the Upworthy webpage, while a recent Cosmos survey showed that an alarmingly high 1 in 3 women reporting being sexually harassed in the workplace at some point in their lives, the prevalence of man touching is likely much higher, simply because no one ever talks about it. Many of the women I talked to didn't speak up for fear of being told that they're overreacting or being hysterical. If they do speak up, the response is usually the same. Stop taking everything so seriously. It's just a compliment. Woman, man, genderqueer, straight, gay. It's not a compliment. It's a violation of our bodies and our space. I sat in on the forum this morning and was reminded that my sister refused to report her sexual harassment years ago in the Army because, with someone higher up in the command, And she said, as much as told her as family, she ought to report it. She said, and this was back in the day, she said, he'll just say I'm a lesbian and then I'll get kicked out, even though she doesn't even identify as lesbian. It was just what she knew would happen if she reported it. Within our society and most societies throughout the world, men still have more power than women in general. There are unfortunately far too many women who not only put up with men touching them in the workplace, but also with husbands and boyfriends who call them bitches, say they are no good, accuse them of cheating, hit them, and more. That does not mean that there are not men in straight relationships who are abused by women, or that there are no gay or lesbian relationships in which there is abuse. There are abused men. There are abused genderqueer people. There is abuse in some gay and lesbian relationships. In any relationship where there is abuse, the abuser wields some kind of power over the abused. A few years back in another congregation, as I was preparing a presentation on the ethics of sex, I invited people to let me know areas they would like me to address. I did not know what I was getting myself into. I was told that would I please address S&M, sadism and masochism. I had to do some research. But in sex play that includes bondage, dominance, and discipline, the participants agree on a safe word so that the person playing the role of the less powerful is the person who has the power to stop the game. Participation in sadism and masochism would not be ethical without that safe word. It puts the power to protect oneself in the hands of the one playing the part of the one with less power. We need to find real life safe words. And obviously, no should be one. Unfortunately, it's not. But it is up to all of us to make it one. Looking the other way when we see abuse is not an acceptable option. Sometimes we look askance at the reports of sexual abuse in the Catholic Church, but we have our own issues. Every year at Ministers' Day, before the annual General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association, a minister is asked to give the Berry Street lecture. In 2016, Reverend Gail Stevie spoke about clergy sex misconduct and the complicity of the structures of the UUA in hiding it instead of addressing it. In just one example, Stevie said of a woman who made her report to the UUA against a woman minister in January of 2005, that in 2016, that complaint had still not been resolved. Stevie says later in her essay, ministry is a role. We are given certain powers by the communities we serve so we can meet their religious and spiritual needs. Vulnerable people, longing to feel special themselves, may sometimes seek affirmation from ministers as individuals, confusing the significance of our role for a personal importance. We abuse the power given to us in our role when we use people to meet our own personal needs. It is our job as clergy to respond to loving behavior, which means to nurture them towards their own full and mature power, embedded in a community of relationships. But our culture systematically rewards vulnerable people with the dignity of those with prestige if they serve those prestigious people's needs. It becomes the vulnerable people's job to protect the prestige of the powerful whose needs they meet. If the vulnerable people complain, their dignity is removed. If they still complain, they are exiled. You can replace minister with teacher or president or editor or boss. It is our job as clergy, as teachers, as editors, as bosses to respond with loving behavior, which means to nurture those under us toward their own full and mature power. But our culture systematically rewards vulnerable people with the dignity of those with prestige if they serve those prestigious people's needs. Suppose Princess Elizabeth in The Paper Bag Princess was not a princess, but just Elizabeth. Would she still have had the self-confidence to turn down marriage to a prince, even if he denigrated her? Or would that title, prince, keep her from claiming her own full and mature power? I regularly give blood, and in the educational materials that need to be read before giving, sexual activity is defined. It is laid out very clearly that anal sex and oral sex are sex as well as penile vaginal sex. And I expect that clarity is due in part to words of denial and the actions of a past president of the United States. Presidents who have sex with interns, ministers who have sex with congregants, teachers who have sex with students, coaches who have sex with athletes, doctors who have sex with patients. All of these are abusers of power. Our sex education for ourselves and our children needs to include ways we can stand up to others' power. We need to be able to recognize when those who look like princes or princesses are acting inappropriately, call them out, protect ourselves, and protect others. We must change societal norms so that no one thinks someone's high title allows them to take advantage of others. I end with a prayer by Unitarian Universalist minister Lisa Bo Kemper. Holy One, we call by many names and sometimes by no name at all. There is a space between our breaths where we find the still small voice within. Let us seek together that place of calm. For anyone who has experienced sexual assault or harassment, you are loved beyond measure. You are good, right, and beautiful. Your lives are more than the sum of the moment or moments that changed you. Whether the violation occurred yesterday or decades ago, may you find ears to listen, hearts to believe your story, and may gentle hands reach out to clasp yours in solidarity and support. For men, women, and genderqueer, your bodies are your own. Your agency is paramount. Your health should never be compromised, and your body is not disposable. For leaders and holders of power across this country, may your eyes be clear, may your hearts be open, and may your resistance to the status quo be fierce. For anyone who is wrestling silently with personal demons or challenging situations that are out of your control, may you be held in the embrace of the Most Holy. May you find ways to be empowered, and may you find comfort in the fullness of time. May this community hold us, a calm place in the storm. May we each strive to be the hands that gently reach out and the fists that rise in solidarity, fierce and strong. May it ever be so. The hymn is 10-1018. Come and go with me. Again, I invite you to stand as you're comfortable.
See. We have basked in the warmth and beauty of this flame and this community. As this chalice flame is extinguished, let us carry its glow within. Let us kindle new sparks within these walls and beyond.
And our closing words are from 19th century Irish poet and playwright Oscar Wilde, who said, "Everything in the world is about sex except sex. Sex is about power." May we all use such power with wisdom and love. Blessed be.